the thing about community, it's been around for centuries. Humans, we've been building communities since the day we existed. It's a natural affiliation to want to connect with another human. It can be a bit ego dominated if we want validation from other people. So there's a lot of things that go into community. And I wanted to just prepare some visuals about, what is community, and really understand the difference between audience and community, especially because we are now speaking about community within typically organizations or within businesses. It's not just community within our local neighborhood that might not have a particular ROI associated to it, like a return on investment in that sense. And, I wanted to articulate some of the top community building tactics that I've learnt along, years of just being in this labor of love, and then share some successful case studies around people who are doing this really well, and basically wrap up, close, celebrate, have a dance party with you all is what's on the agenda. So, this question, Joel, I like to define community by comparing it with an audience, because a lot of people would explain community in a lot of different ways. My definition of community is a group of people who are connected by a shared purpose, who connect and support each other on a regular basis. The element I really want to emphasize there is this element of regular basis. Putting people in a room once and never seeing them again is debatable of whether that is community. And especially in all of the incredible work that you're doing, whether it's all of you, whether it's like facilitating conferences or group spaces, building communities in schools, or actually just connecting with your team members in a business, an audience is something that is quite passive. And every business and organization should have an audience, in that it is a one-to-many communication. It's a triangular model. There's a minimal sense of belonging. And basically this audience is consuming your brand. They're loving the content. They could be interacting with you. But it could be, a static newsletter. So if I was to define our audience, we have 9,500 people in our audience, which are newsletter subscribers, social media followers, etc. But that's not our community. I wouldn't define our social media followers as community, because it's quite a static involvement. There's nothing wrong with audiences, but as soon as it becomes a community, it's this circular evolution. There's this active involvement from everyone who is participating, and there's this many-to-many sense of communication. There's a strong sense of belonging. People have rituals. They feel like, yes, I'm a CCN. I know what that means. And members contribute on a regular basis. So community in the context of an organization or in the context of a business could look like having an online forum where people drop in virtually and they connect on a regular basis. Or it could be these in-person meetups. Our free meetup community that started in 2021 were these regular meetups in person in Melbourne, and people would show up, help you, roll off, and then come back the next month again. So does that answer your question there, Joel, on the community? Double thumbs up. Love it. Cool. Because to build an audience, you help people. To build community, you help people help each other. I love this element by David Spinks, one of the co-founders of CMX in America, because with community, you are trying to create a two-way value exchange. You're trying to create this community circle that is a round table where we all have a seat at the table and we all feel like we have the same level of participation. So I'd love to hear just any ideas in the chat. If all of you could just open up the chat and just type, what do you think are the benefits of community when it's done well? Anything that kind of comes to mind around, oh yeah, okay, well, if community is going really well, what is the value that we're seeing, either for the members who are directly involved in the community, or perhaps even for the business or the organization that is hosting this community? Would love for any of you just to share in the chat, or if you want to unmute and share as well, you can do that too. I'll give you a couple, about 30 seconds. Beautiful. Kelly, you always have someone or many people to go if you need help or advice. Yes. Shared learning, 100%. You feel connected, value, a part of something special. I love that, Vanessa. There's something greater than us when we are doing something together. Ongoing inspiration. Yes, Zoe. It changes a movement towards change. Adrian, I love that. A movement is such a great word to describe the power of community. It really can create this groundswell. David, whole is more than the parts. We get more out than we put in. Exactly. As a community member, I want to give more. I'm getting more involved, giving more time, and it feels great. Yeah, there's an element of satisfaction for us. Taking advantage of different thinking, 100%. If it's diverse, there's so many different perspectives, and sharing of individual gifts for the greater collective. Yeah, it's profound. It's something that we can achieve in a group is 10x compared to what we can achieve as individuals. And so I wanted to articulate how building a community within your organization or business can also have a profound impact on how you run a business, but also how it is received by people who benefit from it. And I want to tell you about Kelly Irving. She's based in Anglesey, actually down the road from where I am. And she is a professional book coach. Also, if you want to write a book, Kelly is definitely the person to help. And she started helping people write books years and years ago, and she would offer this in a one-on-one coaching format. And it was really deep, great support. And eventually, she had so many inquiries for people that it was really hard to scale her time and to support all of these authors on their own to write books and get published. And so Kelly thought about, how can I scale the impact of all of us writing books together? And she flipped her business from a one-on-one consulting and coaching model to a community approach. So it wasn't just it typically was an audience, because obviously all of the authors weren't connecting prior. But then as soon as she introduced community, she basically stopped working one-on-one with people and started a 6-month intake, a program type membership, if you will, where authors would join in January and they would all help each other write books. And then they basically had 6 months in this experience where they would learn as a group. This not only amplified the impacts of authors publishing way more books, people helping each other write. They would start co-writing sessions together and jump online and all help get the creative juices flowing. But Kelly and Cam, the co-founder or business partner, started to realize, oh, wow, like the revenue increased in the business. It was much easier for them to manage because they weren't doing one-on-one. They had way more people that they could support, and have seen incredible referrals come through the business as a result of this community. And so they still today catch up online, publishing books all around the world. And her and herself and her business partner have just entered a 12-month traveling year, where they are now only working about 40 hours in the entire year because the community is now running itself. They've hired a community manager, and they are now traveling with their 2 kids around Mexico, and I'm catching up with them next week. So it's pretty wild to see how community has not just impacted these authors, but actually has changed the way that Kelly and Cam run this as a business, and also can see the value of writing so many incredible books and ideas into the world. So I think a lot of you understand the value of community, but in a business context, I really just wanted to hone in on how it can actually double down in an organization. Okay, who's ready for community building tactics? Put your physical hand in the air if we are. Yes, high five, love it. So I wanted to really think about the tactical takeaways that you could really leave this session with. And I think a lot of you would understand this first one. So I've got 8 in total. The first one is this element of co-creation. The best community builders that I've ever met are the best listeners. They make really good decisions, not just on their own instincts, but by listening to the members that they are trying to serve. The more that you can co-create this experience, conferences with the people that you are serving, the better the community will be in its impact and success, because you are involving them in the input. It's like when you run a workshop and a session, you want to co-create the agenda together. You want to co-create the experience that these people are going to have. When we launched, wanted to help community builders, we didn't launch a website page and tell them all the benefits that they were going to get and give it a name. We simply brought them together, asked them what they wanted, and then responded. We weren't actively shoving anything down their throat except for this delicious sushi. But we basically wanted to understand how we could help them and then respond. Another example of a business doing this really well is Butter, which is a tech tool for having online conferences similar to Zoom, but just a bit more functionality. And Butter hired a community manager, Anna Maria from the Netherlands, and said, we'd like you to create a community for our tech tool. Similar if Zoom was like, we want to create a community for Zoom. And Anna Maria spent 2 months interviewing all of the customers of Butter. And then they not only co-created an online forum, but they co-created the community guidelines, the values, started inviting other members to join. And they had about 40% increase in the amount of people that had heard about Butter. And it's one of the best facilitator communities in this kind of online space. And Anna Maria also builds another community for facilitators as well now, which has been extremely co-created. Member roles is one of the most powerful things I've ever witnessed, where you should spend the majority of your time engaging the most engaged people of that community. So if you find that there are people who are coming to your conference again and again and again and again, spend more time with those people than, say, the person that just came once and never came back. There's merit in obviously spending time with people who are disengaging and not, showing up as you'd like, but spending the most time with that top 1% of people who are just your advocates to then re-engage the 99% of people who are then benefiting from the community will drive the impact tenfold. And so think about communities, if you've ever been to a festival, they have this element where, yeah, you can buy a ticket for $500 and go to Meredith, or you can volunteer and check tickets at the gate or help pick up rubbish or do a shift at the food vendor and contribute your time, and we'll give you a free ticket to this festival in exchange. This is such a great way of thinking about that two-way value exchange. The festival is having incredible people help them have a better experience for all the attendees. And obviously these volunteers get a ticket to something that they might have not been able to financially afford. These similar models work really well in communities, in business contexts as well. One of the ways we've done this at the Community Collective is we have a free ambassador program. So this is a free professional development program that we run for 4 months, twice a year, where we welcome 4 people at a time to join our ambassador program, become ambassadors of the Community Collective, and basically represent our brand and help us build the community alongside us. So we are giving them the leadership skills to engage the rest of the community. We're giving them the brand awareness. We're helping them with their goals by encouraging them to learn more about community building tactics. And in exchange, we've given them a free pass to our community cohort training program. So we'd waive the $1,800 fee. And then in exchange, we'd offer value around getting them podcast interviews or publishing them as thought leaders in our blogs, or giving them access to opportunities that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And someone asked me the other day, like, oh, what's been the ROI of having this ambassador community? I was like, oh, it's so intangible. Like, these people are like family now, and we catch up all around. But if I think about the business, I calculated that they had directly contributed $33,000 of revenue for the Community Collective through referrals. And that in its sense was mind-blowing. And now I help businesses build ambassador programs. I've done it for universities and not-for-profits. And every time we come back in a year, and the impact is wild, because you are scaling yourself and you have to find the right people to do that. Another way is rite of passage. David Perel in America, he creates a program to help people write newsletters and blogs. And they started hiring people within the community to become editors of their program to now edit the work of new participants. They could have just hired anyone, any external copywriter to edit the work, but instead they're bringing back alumni from previous programs, paying them, giving them employment opportunities, And now they are helping the members come up in the next program. So the thing I'm trying to drill here is involve more people in bringing your spaces to life to make that experience more valuable for the other people. Rituals. Communities are weird, wacky, wonderful places. The things that happen inside the community collective are really funny, and only a lot of us would understand if you've been inside that experience. But the more that you can write down, what are the rituals that happen inside this community that are really important and that always happen here? Similar to KP, connection before content, we always have a check-in before, it's like these are the things that people start to rally around and that make a space really special. And this is a tactic because you are creating a space that feels different to many, many other spaces. In the age of information overload, it can be really overwhelming to cut through the noise. But a ritual that we have at the Community Collective is we celebrate every single person's birthday. So I just set up an automation that sends an email from me to every single member every single year that their birthday is, and then we share about it in our Slack to basically say happy birthday. It's the small things that really count, and I think that create this element of appreciation and reciprocity because we're going above and beyond on a regular basis. Okay, we're halfway. We've got 5 left. We've got surprise and delight. This is a tactic that I really think shows appreciation on a different level. Speaking to that challenge around creating the in-person magic in online spaces, it's a really tough one to crack. Our community cohort program is 100% online, but we have, in cohort 3, I think there was 37 in-person meetups organized within 8 weeks because we championed different members to help organize all of those in-person touch points. And then we would surprise and delight. So a lot of that would be to our ambassadors. We'd want to reward them. Perhaps I'd send them a book at the end of a year if they went above and beyond, just to really show that appreciation. Another example is Gary Williams at Tractor Ventures, which is a debt funding agency for startups. It's called Tractor Ventures. So he gets a Lego tractor set and clears the shelves at toy stores to give to every single new founder. And so it's this element of surprise and delight where people are going above and beyond and building that greater sense of affiliation with this community. Another tactic is allowing space. I think as facilitators, we really want to curate a great experience, and so we should. But I think you should engineer space to allow for other things to happen. Because one aspect of serendipity to bear in mind is that you have to be looking for something in order to find something else. Just sit with that for a moment. We design so many different spaces and we want to put the agenda in correctly, but also we have to allow for serendipitous moments to happen. So how do you do that on a practical sense? Well, if you have an online community space, perhaps you have a forum. In our example, I'm going to share a Slack example case study here. But we created a Slack space and, we would have Nigeria, a channel for people in Nigeria. We have a channel for resources. My favorite channel is the random channel, which is said, put everything else that basically we didn't expect would happen in this community in the random channel. And basically I created a space where all our members can co-create something on their own. And what started happening was I started to see that the random channel was used for members wanting to catch up with each other. Everyone would just be like, I'm in Sydney next week, like who wants to catch up? And I was like, oh, maybe we need a member meetups channel. So we created this top channel up here called member meetups and started to design and evolve the community space. Guess what happened? We had people meeting up across 4 countries within 8 weeks. And then they started bombarding the member meetups channel with all the photos of everyone catching up. This is everyone from our program in the last program. And we then created a CC and Snaps channel to basically put all your photos in that channel. So, we're allowing space in our engineered design for them to show us how they want to express themselves. Third, last one. Remember to let go of control. This can be really hard. I really struggle with this as a founder. Now, I've put so much love into creating spaces like this. So This tactic is about letting go of control, finding the right people you trust, and teaching them about how to also build community in your spaces. I love this saying, which is give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. If we said in our cohort program, the only way to catch up in person is the Melbourne dinner that we organized in week 1. I would give a man a fish and feed him for a day. We would satisfy a couple people in Melbourne by coming to this event that is organized by the Community Collective, and they would have a great time and then they would leave. But instead, we created a handbook that says this is how you run your own meetup within the Community Collective. You post it in the member meetups channel, you share the calendar invite, you add everyone's emails, and then you follow up with them 24 hours before and 24 hours after the event. And now I'm teaching them how to host great experiences. I'm teaching them how to build community within this space. And now there's just so much momentum. We're building that movement. Okay, this last element, a second last element, is of rewards and incentives. And, I don't share all these surprise and delight and rewards and incentives and expect you to have a budget to send people Lego gifts. Think when we started this business, we had $0 and we had to be really resourceful in ways in which we rewarded people. But in communities, you want to, coming back to that, investing in that 1% who are most engaged, thinking about how you can incentivize those people to do the acts of service that you want to happen in the community. So, for example, during our cohort program, we basically give everyone access to our community strategy template. We run 3 workshops about how to build a community strategy for your business. And then we ask people to submit it in week 5 to basically drive accountability. Cohort 1, 0 people submitted their community strategy template. We were like, oh, okay, well, I think that's a really good outcome for people to have, because when people submit the strategy template, they're more likely to renew and stay on in the community. So what we thought about was, how can we embed rewards and incentives into this tactic? And what did we see? We had 9 people submit in cohort 2, and we had 25 in cohort 3. What we did in cohort 2 is we said, if you submit, you will get feedback on your strategy template. That worked really well. And then cohort number 3, we said you'd get feedback and you'd also get a book delivered to your door, which was from our first speaker in the cohort, Tim Duggan, based in Sydney, who wrote Cult Status. It's not about like building cults and like abusing human rights. It's about like building a business with people that adore you. And what happened? Like, all these members started like sending us photos and posted on socials of like getting this book to their door. The author then came back the second program. He's been a coach now with us for the last 3 programs, and now he's sending us his new book. It's wild. If you give people the tools, it's just crazy what you see. And the last thing is, whenever I feel like I don't know how to make a decision that involves the rest of the community, I'm thinking like, oh, should I change the topic in cohort 4 about something else? I think, okay, instead of me making this decision, I want to put 3 answers together and I want to put it to the vote. So this is tying back to co-creation. So this tactic is doubling down on, when you make decisions, not like, how much should I price my program, which generates revenue and like it pays out bills, maybe not voting on that, but you're really thinking about, how can I include them in the decision making? So One Roof is a community for female founders in Australia and non-binary people. And they, at the end of every year, they basically write up a list of all the topics that these people can learn about. And then they all vote on the topics that are going to be in the next year for their program. And then they all vote on who in the community should deliver the knowledge on each of those topics. And then those people then vote for the times in which they want to deliver. It's like they didn't just vote on topics, they then voted each other to then deliver the knowledge on those topics. Like, it's wild. People renewed their membership so much more the following year because they had, opted in to run a masterclass on pricing in September. So, I've done a lot of talking and I hope it's been really helpful. This last example of voting is we put the name of our program to the vote to this group of people in 2022. We said, what should we call our program? We gave them 4 answers and everyone voted on the community cohort. And still today we throw a big birthday party in Melbourne to celebrate the existence of the CC. And we have people still come back who I haven't seen in years, and they say, oh yeah, I remember I voted on this name and it's still going, you know, so people are buying in to what we're building.